Hello, and welcome to the Charles Cook Podcast. The focus of my podcast is on local and state issues here in the state of Tennessee. You can follow my podcast on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and Alexa. Just search for the Charles Cook Podcast, and you should be able to find it there. You can also find me on Rumble at Charles Cook 52. Just like and subscribe on any of those platforms, and you'll be notified whenever I upload new content. You can also find those links at my podcast webpage at charlescookpodcast.buzzsprout.com. As I said, you can go on there and find any of those links and just like and subscribe, and you'll be notified when I upload a new content. If you got an idea for a podcast or like to join me or something you'd like for me to discuss, just email me at charlescookpodcast@gmail.com. Okay. This week, I got to spend a little bit of time in Nashville, Tennessee, at the state capitol, at some of the legislators and stuff, and discussing several issues. A friend of mine and I went down to talk with about things, and from abortion law changes that's going on to civil asset forfeiture laws, local election laws, 3 or 4 different topics that had an opportunity to talk with some of the legislature about. And boy, I tell you, it's tough getting some things done around here, especially when it's good changes that needs to be done and would really be beneficial to the people, because you have the administrative state and local and the state government and the lobbyists that really puts pressure on these people, and they have their ear more than the citizens, and we've seen that a lot this week. But a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine had told me about a Glenn Beck interview with the Andy Roth with the State Freedom Caucus, and I don't know if many of people know about the State Freedom Caucus. They've probably seen the Freedom Caucus in D.C. A lot of those that took part in picking the Speaker of the House and everything back after the first year. But so I went and listened to this interview with Glenn Beck, and man, after I went to Nashville this week, it really come back, and I think I need to play part of this for you, and hopefully it'll play out and the audio will be good. But I want to share it with you so you can understand that we focus a lot on Washington, D.C., and that's because you see most of it on the national news, or we hear it on Fox News or talk radio and everything, but we really don't understand what's going on in our states and our local governments. And that should be a big focus, because folks, if we talk about winning back America, we can't do that until we win back our local and state governments. And so I want to play this interview with Andy Roth from the State Freedom Caucus. And I'm going to stop this as we go through and talk about some things, because I reached out to Andy and asked him about some of the stuff that he talks about with Tennessee here. But I think it's very important that you realize what's going on, especially across the South of the southern states of the United States, where we think that we're all Republican and we're conservative and everything. When you hear what this man has to say about Alabama and Texas and Tennessee, it should concern you greatly that what's going on in our states and who's leading our states. So I'm going to play this, and as I said, I'll stop it periodically and talk about some of it.
However, the Freedom Caucus is a great replacement And right now, it's just acting as a needle in everybody's ass. Move. And I think if you saw what the Freedom Caucus did in the House of Representatives, I contend that any honest American, I don't care who you voted for, Republican, Democrat, Independent, every honest American that looks what the Freedom Caucus was standing for and what they got should be thanking those guys right now. I think they're the answer to the cancer that we have. Andy Roth is the president of the State Freedom Caucus Network, and he's trying to get, and there's great growth that is happening right now, trying to get more Freedom Caucus members into our states. And states like Texas is a real problem.
Big problem. Think about it this way. The uniparty, the establishment, the cartel in every 50 states or in all 50 states, 50 swamps, the governor is a full-time job, like round the clock. He's well-funded, well-staffed. The bureaucrats that run the woke agencies, full-time, year-round, full staff. The lobbyists, full-time, well-staffed, well-funded. The lawmakers, the part-time lawmakers, they don't have any staff. They have no help. So when we wonder why we're losing as conservatives to the establishment, it's because of that. It's because of that imbalance. In Texas,
and we don't. And every time I go to talk to a state senator or a state legislative member, they always say the same thing. I'm so far behind on this. I don't. Can you help me out? Because they don't have anybody but lobbyists that are briefing them on things.
They don't have time to read the bills.
No.
And that's by design. They're jamming everything through. So when conservatives have to vote on something, they're like, well, how should I vote? The only people that are in their ear is leadership or lobbyists.
Right. And I have found, I think Utah is in grave trouble. I think Texas is in grave trouble. Yep. And there's no reason for those states to be in grave trouble, except all of the people in those states think, oh, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah.
We got the Republicans. No, a lot of people, Republicans, a lot of them are progressive. So they're in on it. They like it. Two, in those states like Texas, you don't, even if you're a Democrat, you run as a Republican,
right?
Because you can't win as a Democrat. So you have all of those people that are kind of just hiding as a Republican. But in Texas, what are they voting on right now?
So yesterday, they, just like in Congress, they vote for the speaker and then they vote for a rules package. Unlike the fight that the Freedom Caucus waged against McCarthy in the U.S. House, in Texas, the Republican speaker won 145-3. So all the Democrats came on board and supported this Republican. Now ask yourself why. It's because in the rules package coming up, he is going to give Democrats committee chairmanships. This is a full Republican majority House.
Yeah, but we're working together. We like to work together, reach across the aisle.
And when we wonder why Texas doesn't have school choice, it's because a Democrat runs the education committee.
Wow.
You want to file a school choice bill? Go ahead.
It's not going to get out of committee.
But then it's going to die in committee. And when the speaker defends this, he's like, well, I don't want to be like DC.
Yeah, well, I don't want our state to be like DC. I don't want our state to be like California. These guys have a responsibility, especially in Texas. There is absolutely no excuse in Texas. None. And we're going to lose Texas.
And you remember when the Democrats left, the Democrats in the Texas House left and went to D.C. Throwing a temper tantrum because they didn't like the election integrity bill.
Right.
So they finally came back. The speaker did not punish them, but they watered down the bill and passed a weaker version. And now you give them committee chairmanships.
God help us if they're on the committee.
They use that money to raise money, or they use those committee chairs to raise money from lobbyists. They then use that money to defeat Republicans.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It's absolutely insane.
And I could tell you a story in every other state of the similar type of corruption. It's bad, it's deep, and it's in the dark. Most people don't know this stuff.
Give me the 5 worst states.
Well, Alabama, we went down there.
Alabama.
We went down there and said in no uncertain terms, we can't set up an Alabama Freedom Caucus because there aren't any conservatives in the legislature. And
None.
And I'm not even joking. Like, and here's a key reason why, and this will curl your hair. The state legislature has to vote on local bills. Like if a county.
Now, I will point out, large Republican majority, but no conservatives, not any conservatives in Alabama that he could find. But let's go ahead and finish playing some more of this.
County wants to raise taxes.
Mm-hmm.
There are 105 members in the Alabama House. When they vote on that, it passes like 6-0 because all of them duck the vote because they don't want to be seen as raising taxes.
Oh my God.
And it's a gentleman's agreement.
You vote on this one, I'll vote on that one.
Right. And so when I was looking at the voter rolls, the average Alabama House member ducks 70% of their votes.
Oh my gosh.
It gets worse.
Unbelievable.
One Alabama state senator hasn't voted in 3 years.
How is Alabama putting up with that?
It's ridiculous, right?
I mean, that is
and I
absolutely corrupt.
And the media outlets down there that cover the Capitol, they don't mention it. They don't talk about it. They don't care. They don't want to expose it. They know what's going on, but they don't do anything about it.
Why rock the boat if everything is working?
In Tennessee, we went there and we said, in no uncertain terms, can we set up a Tennessee Freedom Caucus? Because you guys are not conservative. And we were in a room that we were told these are the most conservative members. We're giving our pitch, like, here's what you do when you're in a Freedom Caucus. I had a guy over here say, defend subsidies for a Ford plant, Ford Foundation, all of the woke ESG stuff they're shoving down their throats. He's defending the subsidies. I had a lady in the back who was against school choice. And then I had a guy over here defend hotel motel taxes. And I'm looking at my VP of government affairs, Justin, and I'm like, are we in the right room? And these are deep red states.
And these are people that came. It wasn't just everybody. They knew who they were meeting with.
Okay. So you heard what he said about Tennessee, correct? So, these were supposed to be the best of the best. But I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes as we go through some more of this, and especially at the end of it.
And they were coming to hear a pitch about starting a Freedom Caucus.
Right.
So they thought they were pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, they thought they were really good.
Wow. Did anybody say anything when you walk out of those meetings and go, guys, we can't do anything with you?
Some of them said, well, gosh, I guess we better start voting better. And others were like, this isn't for me. But I am hopeful in the states that we are in. We're in 10 states, Georgia, South Carolina. We got some Mountain West states. These guys are hardcore.
What Mountain West?
We got Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming.
Good.
And they're all good.
Good.
And they're ready to fight.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd like a list of all of the guys who are in it and that are really standing up and fighting. I mean, all across the country. I'd like to know who they are.
Yeah.
Because the audience would like to support people like this.
Yeah.
And they need to.
And it's growing. I mean, we have over 100 state lawmakers across 10 states. And we're adding states. We added 10 last year, and we want to add another 10 to 15. So by the end of this year, it's my hope that we can be in half of the 50 states.
We have to be.
Yeah.
We have to be. So, Andy, to explain to people, because the media just turned these guys into monsters, explain to them why every American should be grateful to the Freedom Caucus, that this was not, this should have been very bipartisan. So explain.
So I wrote an op-ed about this yesterday, to your exact point, that every American, Republican or Democrat, should be thankful for the House Freedom Caucus. Had they not stood up and fought, then the dictatorship that started, well, it started before John Boehner, but John Boehner, Paul Ryan, Nancy Pelosi, all of them ruled the House with an iron fist,
And
top down.
It changed because of Obama. During the Obama administration, you no longer had a budget. They destroyed the way everything used to work. It was still
Okay. You can go on the Glenn Beck podcast and go search for that if you want to hear the rest of it. It was played on January the 11th, 2023, and it's about 45 minutes long. But if you want to get to the part about the Freedom Caucus issue, it starts about the 30-minute mark of that. So I just want to share that with you and let you know and hear what was said there about the state of Tennessee. And so I reached out to Andy Roth. I emailed him and asked him when he met with these people from Tennessee, and he told me it was last year. So it was before the first of 2023. And I asked him if he could share with me the legislators that he met with. And he told me it was confidential for right now. Maybe he will be able to share that in the future. But I think it was before the election. I believe that some people may have lost their seat, but I'm curious. I wonder who gave Andy Roth the list of people that was supposed to be the best of the best in Tennessee, the most conservative. Because I know, and he told me that there was some people that they were willing to work with, but they were freshmen. But as I said, I'd like to know the list of names, and I'd like to know who gave him the list of names. I don't know if it come from some Republican who thinks these guys are the best, but as you heard, they defended these people. The lady didn't support school choice. They defended giving money to Ford and corporate welfare and several different things. And, I know that there's good legislators in Nashville. There's a few. And I reached out to one of them and I said, hey, and he's a friend of mine. I consider him a friend. And I said, was you part of this group? And he said, no, I wasn't. I said, do you know who was part of that group? He said, not right offhand. He said, I heard something about it, but I don't know who went to that meeting. So it'd be interesting for me if I could find out who was there and, get a list of names. But this is where we're at. And as you heard, it's not just in Tennessee, it's Alabama, it's in Texas. A lot of the stuff's going on, and even I know in South Carolina, they're having issues over there where, if actual conservatives are pushing back on the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is making them sign oaths to the Republican Party that, if they know they got a true rhino that's terrible on legislation and terrible for infringing on people's rights or whatever, on whether it be abortion, gun rights, state power issues or whatever, and you support a primary opponent against that person, they'd be willing to kick you out of the party over there. So that was one of the, if you go on in this podcast and listen to that, you hear part of the guy from the Freedom Caucus, Andy Roth, talking about that, what the state Republican Party is trying to do in South Carolina. And, I've seen some shady stuff from the Tennessee Republican Party. So, I just wanted to share this with you and kind of maybe it will open your eyes to see that, just because somebody's Republican, it doesn't mean they're conservative or they're liberty minded. I've heard, and I'm sure you have too, the last election or so, people say, well, I'm going into the voting booth and I'm voting straight Republican. Well, That's not going to fix the issue. Fixing the issue is getting these people out of office that are there for themselves and there for the lobbyist. And um, the Tennessee Conservative News put out a Follow the Money report publication a few weeks. I would tell you to go on the Tennessee Conservative News Facebook page, uh, website, and look at that and uh, see where most of the donations come from for these legislators. A very small percentage, and I'm talking in the single digits for most of them. A very small percentage of their donations come from their districts, and a lot of time, and most of the time, it's outside their districts, and sometimes um, the money is poured into them from out of state. So they are not representing the people in their district. They're representing the lobbyists and the PACs that are donating the money to them. And I think Brandon Lewis and those guys at the Tennessee Conservative News does an outstanding job on pointing this stuff out. And I'll just say this: if you can go support those guys, go support them, because you know they've exposed a lot of stuff, and uh, they need credit for that, and they really try to do a good job and put the information out there, out out on the issues. And I'm gonna tell you, the legislators don't like that. They love the political waters to be as smooth as glass. They don't like no ripples in the political waters. And when it starts getting some ripples in it, starting to get a little wavy, they get nervous, and they don't like people, uh, like myself or uh, Brandon Lewis with the Tennessee Conservative News, or Gary Humble with Tennessee Stands, and Gary does a fine job there too. Uh, they don't like people putting information out and talking about what's going on. And there's going to be more come out, especially at the end of this legislative season, uh, when they're all on record for what they've done, and they're going to be exposed. But I'm going to tell you, the only way we're going to do anything is primary these people and get them out of office. And you don't start uh, 2 months before the primary season. Right now is when you start. It's when you start recruiting people, looking for people, uh, you know, uh, interviewing people and seeing how they are, what their mindset is, and everything, and hopefully start getting some people to run against these uh, rhinos, as we call them, and get them out of office. So, with that, I hope you'll go find that podcast from Glenn Beck, or from the Glenn Beck Show, and listen to it. It's got some interesting stuff to it. But I wanted to share that with you and let you see what these so-called Republicans are doing, and how they legislate, and in Tennessee we're supposed to be so Republican, they call it red to the roots. But I'm going to tell you, we're not conservative to the roots, and all you got to do is go spend some time or start looking at some voting records, and looking where their money's coming from, and you'll get that. Uh, you'll learn that lesson very quick. And just like we've seen here, got one of the best uh, pro-life laws in the country, and we have Republicans led by the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, trying to water down these laws to give um, doctors leadway to perform abortion where nothing can really be enforced on them. So uh, check it out and look at their records and see what they're doing, and be focused, and look up the Tennessee Stands and the Tennessee Conservative News, and follow those folks and support them, and they'll keep you informed on what's going on. And don't worry, don't try to get your news as far as what's going on in the state um, from your local TV networks, because they're not going to tell you about it. They'll tell you what's happening after the fact, and they'll put the liberal spin on it. But follow those guys and get your information from there, and they can help keep you informed of what's going on. So with that, I thank you for joining me. Please like and share this, and and hopefully we'll catch you again. Until the next podcast, y'all be safe. May God bless y'all. Bye-bye.